Welcome in everyone to our second installment of our fall 2025 semester of the Dream Job webinar series presented by Rubin. I'm Danny Rubin, the founder of the company, and we provide curriculum and webinars and lots of digital resources for employability skills, helping students learn to act professionally, act their best in the hiring process and in the workplace. We work with CTE programs inside of middle and high schools across the country. And we also provide our webinar series, which we are thrilled to do and so grateful that we have our guest today, Chase Townsend from Townebank, which is become a dominant bank in Virginia and North Carolina, has grown rapidly over the last several years. And they've done it through not just the financial products they provide, but also how they treat their customers. And we're going to talk about both sides of that business, of the banking business, the banking financial instruments and products and the employability skills. We're going to talk about that together as we get into the conversation with Chase. So as we get going, and if you just joined us, please say hello in the chat. Tell us where you're watching from. And I want to share a couple of links in the chat so those of you who are new to us or newish to us understand how to make the most of these webinar resources. One is in the chat, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We put all of our conversations on our YouTube channel. We have over 90 conversations now, and we keep doing more. Hello, Marcus from Freeport, Illinois. Thanks for being here. And also, so subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then also you may want to bookmark our website where we also store our webinars and include on the page the worksheet that we shared along the way for this session. So if you want to watch it later on a recording, you and the students can watch it at any time and use the worksheet from our website. So save both of those web addresses so you can access our webinars later on. And we hope we'll continue to see you at our live sessions throughout. Hi there, Natalie from Pomona, California. Hi there, Jennifer, Kent, Washington. Thank you for always being here, bringing your students. We so appreciate it. Okay, so with that, I want to bring in Mr. Chase Townsend from Townebank. Thank you again for taking time out of your busy Wednesday, middle of your Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So Chase, let's begin by giving us your short bio of what you've done in your career along the way and what you're doing now for Townebank, and then we'll get into the work of commercial banking with you.
Sure. So thank you for having me, Danny. As you said, my name is Chase Townsend. I'm a senior vice president in the commercial banking department here at Townebank, based in Norfolk, Virginia, which for those of you who are not familiar with Virginia, that is very close to Virginia Beach and in the East Coast, bordering North Carolina. I started in banking in the summer of 2008, which many people on this call probably too young to remember, but 2008 was the start of I would say the peak of an economic crisis, and unemployment rate was very, very high. A lot of banks were failing or struggling, and I graduated from the University of Mary Washington in Northern Virginia with a degree in business administration, concentration in finance, and entered the workforce during a very difficult time to start your career in banking. I was a college athlete. I played baseball in college, so I did not do any internships while I was in college. So I had to more or less start from the bottom. I started as a teller at a local community bank. I worked there for about 11 months. And then I moved to a bank called BB&T, which actually no longer exists. It is now known as Truist Bank. Many of you may be familiar with one of the top 10 banks in the country by size, where I worked for the next 15 years. I went from entry-level customer service rep to portfolio manager to commercial relationship manager to VP of commercial banking over that 15-year period. I joined Townebank in April of 2024. So I made a major career move last year to take this position with, as Danny said, a local community bank. We're about $19 billion in assets. So we're actually categorically not a community bank anymore. We're considered a small regional bank. So we are growing and capturing market share in Virginia and North Carolina every day. So,
Thank you. Great background. I love the fact that you began as a teller, moved your way up to vice president, now senior vice president. I want to get into that as we go. Like, what did you do to keep climbing the ladder and how proving yourself at every stop? So that's a great thing we're going to dig into. And I also want to welcome Natasha Dees from Charlotte Mecklenburg and Sheila, hope I said that right, Rhodes from Roanoke, Virginia, checking in. Thank you so much for being here with your students. So Chase, let's first define, let's talk about what Town Bank does, the different services, and then we'll focus in on what you do in commercial banking. But tell us what goes on at Town every day. What types of services does it provide to individuals and businesses?
sure. So we're considered a commercial bank, and for those that may not be familiar, commercial banks serve both retail customers with your basic deposit accounts and home equity lines, car loans, mortgages, but we also serve businesses, both large and small, up to what we would consider middle market. Middle market is, you think of your small private equity owned companies, your companies that do about 200 to 500 million in revenue a year. They're pretty good sized business with large credit needs. We're capable of handling all of their payment systems, their lending needs, their credit card, both receipts and payments. But what would set us apart as a community bank is we actually have a #1 market share in Hampton Roads. And in the top 50 MSAs, which an MSA is a metropolitan statistical area, it's another term used for a big city. So in the top 50 big cities in America, we're actually one of, if not the only community bank that has a #1 market share. So our hallmark, as Danny alluded to at the beginning of this call, is we have exceptional exceptional customer service. And our delivery and personal touch is pretty unparalleled for some of these large businesses that may be dealing with a larger bank and a little less personal touch.
What is the difference? What does it mean to be a community bank versus a bank we might see like Wells Fargo or Bank of America? What is the distinction?
Sure. So I guess there's a regulatory consideration there in that these banks that are over 250 billion in assets have very strict oversight from their regulators. Usually it'll be a state regulator, the FDIC, in some cases, or the Federal Reserve and the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. And so with heavy regulation, it sometimes can limit the feel of the flexibility that you can have for your customers. At our size, we can do some things that are a little bit more creative and a little bit more flexible. We're still a regulated entity, and we still have to practice safe and sound business practices and adhere to regulation. But our capital requirements are a little bit different than they would be for a Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Citigroup, for example. And also our decision making is a lot closer to the end user or the end customer. All of my credit officers, for example, are within 50 miles of me. They're in my market serving my customers. In many cases, I'll sponsor or bring a credit request to the table, and my credit officer knows that business or passes their trucks on the road. So it allows us to deliver and respond to their needs a lot quicker than maybe an anonymous credit center in Florida that's making this decision for my customer. So
Very helpful. I want to now begin to invite the teachers and students to go to the Q&A along the bottom of Zoom and enter your questions for Mr. Townsend. You can please, when you write your question, put your name and your school so we can give you credit for your question. And I'll keep an eye on the Q&A as we go, but please start entering your questions. So let's go through a day. What is an average day like? What kinds of meetings are you in? Conversations are you having? What does a day look like for a commercial banker? Take us through one.
Sure. So I will say that as a commercial banker, one of the things I enjoy about the career is that you have a lot of autonomy to determine what your day looks like. I do have goals and measurables that I need to be accountable to for our shareholders and for the company to continue its growth goals. But how I reach those goals are really up to me. I personally am a GovCon specialist, so I work with a lot of government contractors. across a lot of different industries. In Hampton Roads in particular, obviously we're near the water and we have a very significant Navy and Marine Corps presence here. So very early in my career, I intentionally intentionally pursued knowledge and industry expertise that would allow me to understand those customers a little bit better and respond to their needs. So a typical day for me, I do have a team here. I have a relationship specialist who handles all, basic day-to-day banking needs, transfers, check orders, difficulty signing into online banking. I have a portfolio manager that manages my upcoming line of credit renewals and more or less cleaning up, documentation errors and things like that, which allows me to be very intentional with my time to find and source new business. Meet with my customers. Some of them like to meet monthly. Some of them like to meet quarterly. Some of them only want to see me once a year, but I have time to plan for those meetings, prepare materials so that I can add value to them. So I'm not just showing up, more or less making a howdy doody call. I can, kind of talk about a lot of those meetings. I might ask them ahead of time things that they want me to be prepared for, and I have time to research, prepare, and respond. But sometimes I'm going in there just sharing economic updates. I read the Wall Street Journal. I subscribe to The Economist. I follow interest rates and things that a banker should be up to speed on, and I can share that with my customers. So day to day, a lot of meeting with customers, a lot of face-to-face time with them on their site or on their facility. Sometimes preparing loan documents and responding to loan requests that they may have, and all the basic, what I consider blocking and tackling of the job is done by my support team here. So my highest and best use is developing new business, and I'm not tethered to my desk answering the phone all day.
That makes sense. Something we do often in these dream job webinars is we do what's called follow-up questions. Sure. And you mentioned something in that answer too. Real quick, I want to say, and students, I hope you're listening, he said he reads the Wall Street Journal and The Economist. So if you want to start to develop a knowledge base for the banking industry, those are two great publications to start to read as you can. So write those down. You said, something you might do with a customer is to extend a line of credit. Can you explain what it means when a bank extends credit to a customer? What does that mean? What's going on?
Sure. So that can come in a couple of different forms. Some that may be more common or intuitive is, I work with a lot of maritime customers here, customers that own tugboats, dredge boats, and barges. I might have a customer that's won a new contract to haul material, let's say from Luckstone or one of the companies here that needs to move rocks. Rather than moving them over the road, they can move them over the water, and they might need a barge to haul that material, or they might need a push boat or a tugboat to push that barge. We would extend a loan, term loan for them to purchase or retrofit a tugboat that they've purchased. So that's what we consider a term credit. The other types of credit that are really common are lines of credit. And, a lot of people associate lines of credit with what they're familiar with, which is a credit card, which is an open-ended revolving line of credit that you can draw from and pay back, or a home equity line, which many of the students on this call, maybe their family members have a home equity line of credit, which is, again, an open-ended line of credit that you can draw as needed and pay back on your schedule. On a commercial sense, we actually we offer lines of credit. In some cases, these, the largest ones that I have are $25 to $30 million that these companies can draw up and pay back, and they are usually to fund gaps in their cash cycle. So if they, sell a bunch of widgets, but their customer has 30 days to pay them, but they need to go refill their inventory and buy more widgets, that line of credit might help them refill that inventory and go buy more widgets while they're waiting for their customer to pay them. So
super interesting. And on the heels of that, we have a question from James, Ms. Baldwin, student James. What kinds of requirements are there to receive a loan or line of credit? How does the business qualify?
Sure. So that's a great question. In a brief sense, just like with a personal loan, a bank really cannot make a loan to someone that they cannot prove on paper they can pay for. So you'll find that banks really don't lend to startups. It's in Hollywood, they always like to show the business owner or the farmer going into the bank and saying, I have this idea and this is my idea and I want a loan to fund this idea. That is really not core banking. Core banking is I have a business that has been in business for 2 to 3 years. Here are my financial statements that show that I have been profitable each of those 2 or 3 years. And therefore, I've demonstrated on paper with my tax returns or my internal books that I can repay the debt that I'm asking you to give me. It is also commonly a misconception that banks lend on collateral. While it is important to have collateral, the presence of collateral doesn't necessarily mean that we will make the loan. And collateral is basically something that you offer to secure that loan. So it could be a real estate like land in a building. That's collateral. If you have land in a building that's worth $1 million and you want the bank to lend you 700,000, you still need to prove on paper that you can pay that 700,000. Just having the land in the building that's worth more than the loan does not get you the loan. And those are things that are commonly misunderstood. So you got to, if you're looking to be a business owner, you need to make sure that you are constantly paying attention to your profitability and reinvesting in your company and making sure that your company has its own credit, if you will.
Thank you. Another question this is from Natasha Deese's students at Butler High School. How important is a knowledge of accounting principles in commercial banking?
So while you don't need to be an accountant to be a commercial banker, having a working knowledge, or I would say in college you call it a 200 level or a mid-level understanding of accounting, I would say it's very important. There are many times when we're working with small businesses, one of the challenges to being a small business owner is you often don't have the money or the resources to hire a controller or a chief financial officer to keep your books for you. And so a lot of times I'll get financial statements from a potential borrower that really don't make sense, or there are inconsistencies in their financial statements. And the better your understanding is of accounting, it will allow you to identify, sort through, and cure, if possible, those deficiencies. So I've actually been able to help small business owners get loans where other banks were not able to, because I would say that I personally feel that I have a high or advanced level understanding of accounting.
Great answer. I want to shift to, and I see Evelyn Soto from South Day Senior High has a question. I'm going to bring that question in a moment. I want to talk about the other side of the business, which Townebank prides itself on, which is the customer service. And I want to share an image from the Town website that I think really drives it home. And this says, business bankers who know you by name. Now, I know through working in and out of Townebank and seeing the commercials, there's a huge emphasis on personal touch, personal relationships, handshakes, knowing people. How do those, as we call them, employability or soft skills, play a role in your job every day?
Those soft skills are, I would say, immensely important. The soft skills are probably 60 to 70% of what determines your success in my role.
Wow.
I have worked alongside one of the most successful commercial bankers I worked alongside at BB&T in my prior bank. He had a background. He was a journalist. He was a journalism student from Penn State. He worked for a newspaper and was a journalist before that. But then he rolled into a commercial banking role and did very well. And the reason is he was very articulate. He knew how to write professionally. He could speak through different modalities. I will tell everyone on this call that talking to a camera on Zoom is something I'm still not comfortable with. I'm much more comfortable face-to-face where I can get nonverbal feedback. But someone coming from that background may thrive in that environment. And so the soft skills, the personal touch, I would say personally, my father was an important mentor in my life. He passed away when I was in college. but my dad was a professional baseball player, and then he was a teacher in Norfolk Public Schools. And he used to say success could be really attributed in a lot of things to three things: who you know, what you know, and being in the right place at the right time. And only two of those things are in your control. So who you know, you take care of relationships and you treat people well, act with integrity, and get a reputation of being someone who is trustworthy and has integrity. What you know, as we touched on earlier, reading and expanding your knowledge base, you will find yourself in the right place at the right time more often. No. So I think that those soft skills, those are things that I can't teach. If I get a junior lender in here who academically can, work out time value of money equations and knows accounting and how to identify ledgers, those are all really great skills. But if they can't sit in a room with a customer or a CFO of a business, chief financial officer or CEO of a business, and articulate those ideas and what I call riff with them or explore the art of the possible, they're going to struggle in my position to consistently find success.
Wow. So, I think you laid it out. What struck me, students, can you tell me in the chat, he said soft skills account for what percentage of success in his business? What percentage numbers did he use? Because that really struck me. It was more than 50. It's like, as he said, having the technical acumen, you got to have that, but being able to be in the room. Let's just dig on this. And thank you. Yeah, he said 60 to 70%. Thank you, Ms. Rhodes. Let's talk about some of the mechanics, real brass tacks. How do you shake a person's hand when they come into a bank or you go on site? How do you shake their hand? How do you hold that conversation? What's your body language? What are you doing in those moments?
Sure. Well, I mean, this is something it's funny you ask. I haven't really given a lot of thought to this, but in a long time. But when I was a retail banker and learning, cutting my teeth at the branch, as it were, I was always taught to, we had name tags, and now my lapel pin stands where the name tag is. We always extended our right hand so that our name tag or our lapel pin was very visible. We looked the person in the eye and give them a firm handshake. You don't want to be memorable for crushing someone's knuckles, but also, a very limp handshake gives a nonverbal cue that you might be uncomfortable or disengaged. So, you extend a hand, give a firm handshake. I always include my name if I'm meeting the person for the first time. I say, hi, Chase Townsend, nice to meet you. Make sure that I retain their name. You'll find sometimes when you're meeting people for the first time, especially in a professional setting, you may have prepared all the things you want to go over and all the things you want to say, and you're there to meet the one person, but they might have 2 or 3 people in the room with them who are important to them. And it's important that you learn their names. And so repeat it back to them if they give it to you. And don't be afraid to ask it early in the conversation. It can be embarrassing 3 weeks later to come back and ask them. So those are some initial thoughts that I have about that.
Well, that's great advice. The firm handshake, but not too firm, and the body, the posture, the eye contact. Making sure you capture their name. There's a lot today with AI and doing things for you, and software does this and this app does that, but the skills you're talking about, even if AI took away every low-level financial equation that needs to be computed, do you believe that the skills you just discussed will always matter?
I do. I think in my business, it's very personal. There's a saying in our business that people bank with people. You could probably build an AI model, or the bank could invest in one that could do some of the data entry. But I don't think that there is a future, in the near future anyway, where business owners will connect on a personal level with an AI. When I enter the room, a lot of times I do my homework. Let's say I'm going to meet with a new government contractor. I do my homework. I visit their webpage. I'll look for their awards. One of the great things about government contractors, you can go on usaspending.gov and I can find every prime award they've ever had. It's freedom of information. So I do a lot of homework in preparation for that. And they expect that. What they don't expect is if I come into the room, I have a grandfather that was in the military. My interests are diverse. I play guitar. I like to fish. I'm very into sports. I have daughters. I try to find ways to relate to them. And I
Hmm.
don't know that a computer or an AI is going to be able to do that. And I golf with my customers. We entertain. We go to concerts together. It's a very personal relationship. It is not transactional. And I think AI will be adept at pulling off the transactional nature of relationships. I don't think it's going to work for everyone on that personal nature, on the personal
And
side.
and that would speak to the fact that these skills, you need to be cultivating these skills throughout your life, getting better and better at these skills as you go. And I did want to come back to your bio at the beginning. You said you started as a teller.
Yes.
And for those unfamiliar, tellers, when you come into the bank, they help you with basic financial transactions. As you walk in, you need money in, money out. And then you've risen to now senior vice president. So do you think that your accounting background, banking understanding, but also the soft skills, is that what helped you rise up at each stage to go from one level to the next level? How you treated people and interacted in these rooms?
Yeah, I would absolutely. I would say to recall, who you know and what you know. When I was at the branch, I actually didn't like retail banking. I'll be candid; it was not for me. People coming in with overdrafts and young mothers coming in who had gotten $35 overdraft fee from our bank for buying something at a convenience store with their kids. I bore their pain, and the empathy in me made that job very stressful to me. So I started to eye other opportunities in the bank. And there was actually a portfolio manager position open in Norfolk. And so I intentionally found out who was in that job in the company, like who already had the job I wanted. And I reached out to those people. And I said, what is a day? I almost did something like this. I said, what's a day in the life of a portfolio manager for you? And they told me, and from that, I inferred what I needed to know to do the job well. A lot of that is analytical. You're doing credit analysis. And so I pulled what's called the RMA, the Risk Management Association diagnostic test. And I tested myself. I took the sample test. As fate would have it, when I wanted to go from a retail banking to commercial banking, because I didn't have a background in commercial banking, I was given the RMA diagnostic test in the interview. And I had already taken 2 or 3 sample tests before.
And you didn't know they were going to give it?
I had no idea they were going to give it to me.
Oh, man.
It's like a 4-hour test.
Whoa.
My point in that is I prepared for that, and I reached out to those people internally to say, this is a job I'm interested. I don't like what I'm doing, and I think it's as important to know when you're entering the job field. Everybody says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" It's just as important to know what you don't want to be. So I had already known what I didn't want to do and what I didn't like. So then I started to seek out, well, what do I think I want to do, and find people that are doing that and ask them, pick their brain. And then on the relationship side, whenever a commercial banker would come into my branch, I made sure to introduce myself. I made sure to get to know them. The commercial market executive at the time was a UVA graduate. I would say, hey, did you see UVA play Virginia Tech? We would just strike up conversation about UVA football. All of a sudden, it was very friendly, and he helped me. He championed me into that role. He later became my boss, my mentor, and my advocate. And were it not for him, I wouldn't be where I am in my career. But that relationship was entirely intentional. I tried to get to know him. So
many great lessons in here about preparation meeting execution, that you had taken the sample exam, and then wouldn't you know it, they put it right in front of you, but you were familiar. I also wanted to go back to what you said about before you go to a government contracting meeting, that you research their awards, their contracts that they currently have. And you said for them, that's like the bare minimum. If you walk in there and don't know, why are you even walking in there? But it's not common thinking for a lot of people that to do any research before a meeting. So you said so many great things in there for preparing for the moment. I think the students need to hear that. Preparation is so important. I think as we start to head for home, using baseball lingo here, rounding third, students who are interested in entering the banking field, you probably weren't thinking about it in high school. Didn't seem like it. You were playing baseball in other spaces, but you got into it soon after. But if you're in high school How can you get experience now? What would you recommend students do?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you have an interest in banking and finance, like I said, I would challenge yourself to become a reader of nonfiction. Try to follow a periodical or a contributor or a writer you like, and I'd say to back up, find the topic that you're interested in. I mean, finance is a big universe. There's economics. I mean, you can find that material very quickly about interest rates, about what the Federal Reserve is doing with monetary policy. There's international trade and international currency exchanges. Try to find those things that you enjoy within finance, um, and pursue any kind of knowledge about those things, whether it's particular stocks you like. I mean, you may, if you're a gamer and you love Blizzard Activision, follow their stock. See if you can understand what makes it move. And start with things that you're naturally interested in. Learning becomes a lot easier when you're interested in it. My wife tells me I have an elephant brain and I memorize lyrics to songs. Well, it's because I really like music. It's not because I think about those lyrics all the time. I just love the music. I think learning and your professional journey can be the same. If you're genuinely interested in the topics you're learning about, your retention goes up, and just the pace with which you learn will increase. So
That it's very practical advice, easy to do as a high school student. You don't need to go be a bank teller right now. Probably can't anyway. So you starting to read nonfiction, read Wall Street Journal, follow stocks. That's all within your fingertips right now. You can do that right now. And I think, Chase, you'd agree, the sooner they start immersing themselves in this world, this terminology, the better equipped they're going to be when that first job or internship comes around.
yeah,
'Cause it's
around those lines, and I don't want to belabor it, but
good.
there are a lot of banks that have management training programs and internships. We do as well here in Norfolk. Um, they are highly competitive. So when you get into college, if you're on that track, looking at a finance or an accounting degree, the time to lay the foundation for the internship opportunity you might get as a sophomore, leading into your junior year of college is now. Pretty much every resume we get for an internship applicant looks really good. I mean, we got a lot of cum laude, track and summa cum laude and magna cum laude graduates, honor graduates, that are applying for our internships. But when we interview them, that's when the decisions are made to, start now. Join your finance club or your stock club if there's one at your high school. Start working on the soft skills. Presentations like this could be the factor that tips
It
things
so
in your
often
favor.
is. If everybody on paper is a top-notch student, and then what separates is how they act in that room. As you
Exactly.
said, in the room, that is how we will be assessed even more so as time goes on with AI in the picture. These people skills matter just as much, if not more than ever before. Mr. Townsend, thank you so much. Brilliant advice on so many levels. Thank you to the teachers and students for your questions and your attention. Wonderful conversation. Thank you to Town Bank for making this conversation happen. Thank you to Ava for your sign language interpretation. We hope you'll join us in 2 weeks' time. We'll be talking to, this one's a little different, an interior designer for private jets. How about that? Lots of ways to do interior design, not just houses. So we're going to learn about the world of interior design in a couple weeks, and we'll continue with our series throughout the semester with all kinds of interesting careers. Thank you for being here, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and we will see you in early October. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.